I'm very appreciate that you always find a chance to be here and participate the program we have at the temple on Sundays. And today we are going to continue to study the Dhamma Sutra. I believe many of you been here before, so basically you all know this sutra. For some friends, you are the first time here today. Basically, I would like to let you know that when Buddha was in India, after he achieved enlightenment, actually he spent 45 years on teaching. That's a very long time, almost non-stop. Every day, monks, nuns will ask questions about their practice. And every day when they go out and beg food from people in villages or cities, sometimes lay people will ask different questions. So when we say sutra, actually it's a collection of Buddha's words. Questions and answers. Most sutras are this way. Questions and answers. So after 45 years, there will be a lot of words. But today, actually, we cannot keep all the original words from those days. But we do have many sutras. In Chinese Buddhist translation, we have a big volume of sutras. And the Dhamma Sutra is the sutra in the highest stage of Buddha's teaching. So please remember that when Buddha teaches people, based on listeners' needs, there are maybe some are very well educated, some are very simple peasants. And one person even asked Buddha, Buddha, I am a farmer. I raise cows, grow rice. Would you teach me how to raise cows healthily? Actually, there was a sutra. Buddha taught this person how to raise cows. If you are a cowboy or cowgirl, and then perhaps you can study this sutra. There are many meaningful teachings in the sutra. Teaches us how to take care of cows properly. Don't let them stay in one place, eat the grass over there for a long time. We should move cows to different areas in different time so the grass can grow. It's very logical. Okay? So some are very simple questions. How to be a good husband and good wife in a family. And how to be a good businessman, how to deal with others. And also how to liberate from birth and death. How to cut illusions. How to increase my inner peace. How to cultivate my compassion, loving kindness toward others as a bodhisattva in order to achieve perfect stage of Buddhahood. And this sutra is teaching us how to reach the highest the stage of liberation. Yeah, we call this Buddhahood. Because of this, so a lot of contents, when you read, it's not like ordinary thinking. Because ordinary thinking, ordinary theory actually gave us certain kind of understanding, but it's not perfect understanding. That is not ultimate understanding. So that's why even we go to school, we study very hard, we graduate from universities, even earn PhD degrees. But somehow we cannot eradicate all kinds of afflictions. Probably I mentioned a story before. Some of you may have heard it. Once, one scientist from Colorado came to Houston with a friend because his friend wanted to see a fortune teller in Houston. Both of them are scientists. They study how to improve rockets for the government. Very highly educated people. They came. One person wanted to see the fortune teller. He wants to know what his future will be like. And the person, another scientist, accompanied this friend, came to Houston, also went into the house. The fortune teller, she's a lady, probably she's still in Houston. Look at the person who's coming with the friend for a few minutes. Then the lady told this scientist, "Mister, I don't know you. You are the first time here. But after I look your face, I study your body posture, I wanted to let you know you only have 5 years left to live." You only have 5 years to live? At first, he was shocked. Never heard of this. After he back to Colorado, he worked in his office, but his mind was thinking on this answer, this kind of words. I only have 5 years to live. At first, he thought he will be okay. But after 1 year, he couldn't concentrate. He couldn't continue to work in the office. So finally, he quit his job and rest himself and see a psychiatrist. That was a true story. So that's why the Diamond Sutra is so important, to reverse certain kind of thinking, not follow the ordinary thinking. Okay. Let's begin the study. Today, we wanted to read chapter 11. Chapter 11, could you find chapter 11? Yes, please, Anne. Yes.
Subhuti, if there were as many Ganges rivers as the number of grains of sand in the Ganges, would you say that the number of grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers is very many? Subhuti answered, very many indeed. Lord Honor One, if the number of Ganges rivers were huge, how much more so the number of grains of sand in all those Ganges rivers? Subhuti, now I want to ask you this. If a daughter or son of two family were to build the 3,000 chili askamans with as many precious jewels as the number of grains of sand in all the Ganges rivers as an act of generosity, would that person bring much happiness by her virtuous act? Subhuti replied, very much. Lord Honor One, the Buddha said to Subhuti, if a daughter or son of the good family knows how to accept, practice, and explain this sutra to others, even if it is a gather of 4 lines, the happiness that results from this virtuous act will be far greater.
Thank you, Anne. Yes. If a person who's very stingy, who's very selfish, Buddha will teach him how to be generous. Definitely, there's no doubt. If this person is so selfish, so stingy, perhaps the first teaching is how to teach him to be generous, sharing his possessions with others. Okay, this is the first step. But how about if a person who's so generous, always sharing, giving, providing food to needies, giving almost everything to others, that is wonderful. There's no doubt. Okay, but a person who's very generous, but without right understanding, without wisdom, without skill, that means there is still possibility for this person to have unhappy experiences, illusions, arrogance, even hatred. And that is why Buddha compared these practices together. If you are very stingy, the first step is to be generous. If you are generous enough, then you should go higher to cultivate right understanding and to have a skill, the wisdom to be able to purify our thoughts. So eradicate hatred, anger, and all kinds of ignorance. Sometimes good people doing some bad things. There's a kind of saying in Chinese: good intention, but a bad action. Okay? Good intention, you have good intention, but somehow you don't know how to actually manage the work to accomplish the goal. Good intention, but bad action. And today, if we understand this part of teaching, that will be wonderful. We still have to learn how to be generous. We still have to admire this kind of practice. Then we are not going to stay in this level forever. Actually, it's better for us to improve ourselves. When we sharing things with others, at the same time, we wanted to learn the Dharma Sutra, even 4 lines of the teaching, that will help us to have a right understanding. When we have a right understanding, we can eradicate wrong understanding or ignorance. After we eradicate ignorance, definitely we take out the roots of hatred and greed. And so this is the teaching from this paragraph. So the happiness that results from this virtuous act will be far greater. That was the meaning of this. Okay. And all right, let's move to the 12th chapter 12. Who's going to read? Would you please? Yes.
Furthermore, Subhuti, any plot of land on which this sutra is proclaimed, even if only 1 gatha of 4 lines, will be a land where gods, men, and asuras will come to make offerings, just as they make offerings to a stupa of the Buddha. If the plot of land is regarded as that sacred, how much more so the person who practices and recites this sutra? Subhuti, you should know that that person attains something rare and profound. Wherever this sutra is kept is a sacred shrine, sacred site enshrining the presence of the Buddha or one of the Buddha's great disciples.
Thank you. After you read this paragraph, I don't know how much we can grasp from this paragraph. According to another translation, in Chinese, mainly it teaches us that wherever there is a sutra of Dharma Sutra, you or we should consider this is a pagoda already. This is a pagoda already. You don't have to build another pagoda in order to show your respect to the Buddha. So that is the original teaching. Because in Buddhist history, a lot of Buddhists, they like to build pagodas, actual pagodas. using mud or bricks or today cement to build pagoda. And the meaning to build pagoda is to show our respect and also to remember Buddha's teaching. That was the original meaning, nothing else. But instead of actually find a space to build the actual pagoda, we should be learning that any place where people recite this sutra, study this sutra, and practice this sutra, we should consider this area, this plot, this space is already has a pagoda there. You don't have to build any form, any other pagodas. That was the teaching of Buddha. And because of this, so today a lot of Buddhists, they understand this. So we know that sometimes it's also necessary to have a pagoda or a temple for people to see, visualize the place. So that's why many places still need, to build actual pagodas, because for people who don't understand the teaching on this level, they still depend on physical phenomena in order to cultivate their understanding about Buddha's teaching. But for people, for Buddhists who understand the teaching like this sutra, then we already know that we don't have to attach to the actual pagoda. As long as we learn this sincerely, we practice this profoundly, then there is a pagoda already. Because the original meaning to build pagoda is to memorize, to remember Buddha's teaching. That was the original meaning. Okay. All right, let's move to the next paragraph, chapter 30. Next, would you please? It's a long chapter.
After that, Subhuti asked the Buddha, "What should this sutra be called, and how should we act regarding its teachings?" The Buddha replied, "This sutra should be called the diamond that cuts through illusion, because it has the capacity to cut through all illusions and afflictions and bring us to the shore of liberation. Please use this title and practice according to its deepest meaning." Why? What the Tathagata has called the highest transcendent understanding is not, in fact, the highest transcendent understanding. That is why it is truly the highest transcendent understanding. The Buddha asked, "What do you think, Subhuti? Is there any dharma that the Tathagata teaches?" Subhuti replied, "The Tathagata has nothing to teach, World Honored One." "What do you think, Subhuti? Are there many particles of dust in the 3,000 Chilyakosms?" "Very many, World Honored One." "Subhuti, the Tathagata says that these particles of dust are not particles of dust. That is why they are truly particles of dust. And what the Tathagata calls Chilyakosms are not in fact Chilyakosms. That is why they are called Chilyakosms. What do you think, Subhuti? Can the Tathagata be recognized by the possession of the 32 marks?" The Venerable Subhuti replied, "No, World Honored One." Why? Because what the Tathagata calls the 32 marks are not essentially marks, and that is why the Tathagata calls them the 32 marks.
Please continue.
Subhuti, if as many times as there are grains of sand in the Ganges, a son or daughter of a good family gives up his or her life as an act of generosity, and if another daughter or son of a good family knows how to accept, practice, and explain this sutra to others, even if only a gatha of 4 lines, the happiness resulting from explaining this sutra is far greater.
Okay, thank you. Recently, I'm teaching another sutra on Friday nights, and the sutra we are teaching right now is the sutra of 42 chapters. There are 42 chapters in it. So actually, simply by using 42 chapters for this sutra as a title. That was the first sutra being translated from Sanskrit to Chinese 2,000 years ago. And today we still, have this sutra and continue to study the contents of the sutra. And in this sutra, last Friday, we discussed that on chapter 12, and Buddha mentioned that there are 20 difficulties for human beings. There are some difficulties. It's very difficult for us to do. And I wanted to share this contents with you. So let's think about that as a human being, what kind of difficulties we are facing today. If we are perfect, when you go to Buddha, I'm perfect. I don't have any difficulties. I don't have any illusions. I don't have any sufferings. And I'm always in peace. Buddha will say, congratulations to you. You don't have to learn anything at all. So actually we have another term, no learning stage. No learning. When we achieve arahanthood, that is the stage of no learning. No learning. You don't have to learn because you already liberated from all kinds of illusions. Okay, no learning. But for me today, I still have to learn. I'm not learning, okay, because I still have difficulties in my daily life. I just wanted to point out some difficulties that we might face in everyday life. The first difficulty is it's difficult for poor people to share. It's difficult for poor people to share. Of course, there are some people, they are very poor, but they still want to share. But most poor people, if we say, I want you to share something with others. One is, I don't have money, how can I share my money? Or, I don't want to share. I have only $1. I wanted to keep it. Okay? So it's difficult for poor people to share. This is one of it. The second one is when you are very in a very high ranking position. You are the president of the country. You are a CEO of the company. And you are very famous. In a very, very high position. It's difficult for those people to learn the Dharma. Maybe they are too busy. Maybe they don't want to learn. They just fully occupied by what they wanted to do. Okay. It's difficult for people to sacrifice their lives. It's difficult for people to sacrifice their lives. And I know one day I'm going to die. I know one day I'm going to die. But deep in my mind, I don't want to die. I hope that today, when we go to another area, I want you to think, we all understand one day I'm going to die. But somehow, I don't want to die. Just check. Yeah. It doesn't mean that we are seeing death. We have seen so many deaths already. So we have the ability to face death. No. Deep in our heart or mind, we don't want to die. Okay. And it's very difficult for people to manage their desires, to control their desires, especially sexual desires. It's very difficult to manage, to control. It's difficult not to compete with others. Always wanted to have the best for himself. In Hong Kong, not long ago, when I talk to friends in Hong Kong, they say today most 名牌店怎么说？名牌的店 branded very valuable branded goods always purchased by people from mainland China. People in China, when they get rich, they wanted to buy good stuff. And Hong Kong people, they don't care today. They feel they don't have to buy those expensive goods. But some people in China, they have a kind of feeling they wanted to buy the best goods. Okay. If you tell them, don't buy that many Rolls Royce car for Rolls Royce, how about watch? Rolex. Don't buy many Rolex. Only maybe one is good enough. But many of them, they buy so many. They even buy the whole store stuff. that is true news. Yes. When you've been criticized or blinded by someone, it's difficult for us not to have anger. It's difficult not to have anger. Especially, we never said anything wrong. Somebody criticizes us, blame us, by using very negative words, talk to us. It's difficult for people not to have anger. Okay. When you have a power, when people have a power, you are the mayor, the governor, and maybe a military general. You have the power. When people have a power, it's difficult not for everyone not to abuse their power. When people have a power, it's difficult to control. Most of the time, we might abuse power. When we go through a lot of changing process, it's difficult for us not to have discrimination. It's difficult not to have discrimination in daily life. And sometimes people tell me, Venerable Hanyi, in America, some people they discriminate minorities, and they don't feel comfortable, and they are not happy. I tell this friend, I said, let's not follow this kind of a trend. Let's begin from us. Don't discriminate others. We have the same problem in China. Long time ago, Chinese people discriminate others too. So all races, deep inside our heart, mind, we have discrimination attitude. Yeah. Sometimes we don't show it. Okay. That's it. It's difficult for people to learn everything, to understand everything. Even we earn doctor, PhD degrees, it doesn't mean we know everything. It's difficult to eradicate people's arrogance, self-centered personality. It's difficult for people to have equanimity or to treat others equally. It's difficult for people not to say gossip. I'd like to ask you that do you want to have anyone to say something about you in the negative words, No, I don't want to listen, to those words. But somehow, from time to time, we might do this to others. It's difficult for us not to say gossip. It's difficult to meet good friends who can teach us, who can guide us, who can accompany us and protect us. It's difficult for people to understand Sanyata, the nature of emptiness, in order to learn the Dharma. Today, I'm not reaching this stage yet. It's difficult to be able to use all kinds of conditions to support others, to help others. Sometimes, even we wanted to help others, but when we actually go through the process, we may misuse conditions, create jeopardy between us. Okay. It's difficult to have a skill to teach different levels. It's difficult to have the skill to teach different levels. Yeah. Sometimes when people invite me to teach adults, I feel better because it's easier for me to express myself. But when they ask me, Venerable Han Yi, we have kids summer camp. Would you please come and teach those 6 or 7 years old kids? Oh, that's a headache. How am I going to teach them the Dharma? Sometimes we may not be able to teach those kids. Okay, so we lack of a skill. Okay. All right. After we understand those difficulties, do you know what caused those difficulties? Basically, according to Dhamma Sutra, because we all strongly attached to this idea. There is unchangeable entity, we call this self, inside us. Because of this attachment, then we started to think, what is mine, what is not mine? What I like, what I don't like. Anything I like, I'm going to get it. Anything I don't like, I'm going to against it. Maybe through education, we understand part of the reason to control our egos. But a lot of times, we are not completely 100% liberate us, purify us from this kind of illusion yet. So that's why from time to time, we have illusions. We have afflictions. We are going to expose our anger, hatred, or greed, or ignorance. So that's why we are still facing difficulties. And this sutra teaches us we have to reverse this kind of attitude. Yeah. When you think about I is conditional existence. There's no one solid, independent entity there exists. There you can call I. I think we have to understand that actually we are changing every day. Our faces are changing all the time. Our mental state is changing all the time. Nothing is stay there permanently. But somehow we're still strongly attached to self and producing so many negative actions. So that's why Buddha asks us, when we see phenomena, even we hear the Dhamma from Buddha, when we say Dhamma, Actually, it's not Dharma, but we call this Dharma. Dharma is conditional and presented by the Buddha, and we are disciples who are listening the sounds, and we try to understand the Dharma. But actually, when you study what is Dharma, there's no entity we can take. Oh, this is Dharma. Actually, Dharma is conditional. And also, when we say that is Buddha actually taught us Dharma, Buddha said, no, there's no truth can be said. For example, right now, I'm going to say, fire. My mouth is still okay. There's no burning. So when I say fire, in English, probably many of you, all of you understand what I'm talking about. Okay? You know, something is going to burn. But in Chinese, we don't say fire. We say 火. Justin, when you say 火, you have the same understanding because you have concepts. You've been educated in Chinese family background and also Western education background. So you have two kinds of concepts. Unite these concepts together. 火 and fire, they're the same thing. But it's just concepts, names. Names doesn't represent any actual facts. How about, I'm going to use a match. You know, you actually see the fire. There's a fire. If you say there's a real fire exists, you will be wrong. You will be wrong because this is conditional existence. The phenomenon is conditional. You cannot find anything from this phenomenon. We can call this fire. Without fuel, without oxygen, how can we get fire? And without lighter, how can I get a fire? So fire actually is conditional. There's no permanent nature in it. We call this nature sanyata. And sometimes in English, we are going to translate into emptiness. Sometimes emptiness gives people wrong idea, empty. Actually, just say the nature of this is empty. Because of this nature, empty nature, so this phenomenon can be changed. It's not going to be like this forever. Okay, because everything is changeable and the conditional phenomena is useful. So for this part, Buddha said, be careful. We're not just simply understand the empty nature of everything, and also we have the skill, the wisdom to use conditions properly. When I have a fire in my hand, you say, the fire is not real. It's useless. How about you give me your hand, let's burn it. It's going to burn, is right? It's going to burn. So we cannot ignore the function, the use of conditional phenomena. We have to learn how to be skillful to use those conditions. When I see fire, I wanted to be able to manage how to use fire. It's good to cook food, but I don't want to put a fire in the woods. It's going to destroy the forest. I'm not going to use fire to burn somebody else. It's going to kill somebody. So be able to understand how to manage those conditions properly. That is the process of purification. That's why when we meditate, when we contemplate, when we say we wanted to observe sila, precepts, practice morality, we wanted to pure our mind, our body actions, and speeches. So we wanted to keep those pure conditions inside us, and be able to use those conditions to help us, better us, and eventually liberate us from illusions and also birth and death, all kinds of sufferings. That is the teaching of this sutra. That is the highest goal of this sutra. We are not just helping us, also we have to cultivate our bodhisattva, compassion, and loving kindness to help others. We call this bodhisattva. Bodhisattva. Okay. And 32 marks. Larry, could you explain 32 marks?
I know that.
Yes.
I don't know what the 32 marks are. I know they.
Okay.
They're characteristics of the Buddha.
Okay, that's
I don't know
correct.
all the-
That's correct. And for some friends, perhaps you are new for this term. I wanted to say that actually 32 marks simply representing ancient Indian philosophy, how to check on a person, a teacher. If a person who has 32 marks, or 30 marks, or 31 marks, that means this person should be respected because he has done so much merits, and this person is so wise in certain way. Okay, Buddha has 32 marks. And this morning I tried to write down some marks that to share to you. How many teeth do you have? How many teeth? 32. Buddha has 40. There's one mark. Okay. And for Americans, you have high nose, beautiful high nose. That is one mark. One mark, high nose. Okay, this is an Indian philosophy, Indian way of looking on people. Indians, they are, I think, the race of Indian. They are mixed race from north and also from south. Okay, and so the way they look on people differently, and some are very similar to Chinese way of seeing people. Long arms. Yeah. In America, do you have this? Long arms. Let's check Obama's arm. It's long enough. Long, all the way can reach his knees. Okay. And also very tall, pretty tall. And his tongue is very long and thin. What I'm going to get from this? If a person's tongue is long, thick, maybe it's difficult for him to speak. But thin and long, that means when he speaks, okay, it's very easy and very, very beautiful. And also his body, his 皮肤, what do you call it? Complexion, golden complexion, just like Westerners. White people, they want to have sun, what do you call it? Suntan. Okay. White people have suntan, then become golden color. Very similar. So Buddha's race may be from north. They have white skin and they wanted to have tan. Then turn it into a golden color. Buddha's voice was so beautiful, and even people sitting far away can hear clearly. He doesn't need microphone. Perhaps, okay. And also another mark I wanted to mention. If you check Buddha's head, there is one area in the center which is higher. What do you call this? Some Chinese, they say, oh, Buddha looked like an ancient Chinese man. Ancient Chinese men, they put, they wrap, they cure their hair in the center sometimes. Okay. But actually, this is not hair. It's it's a kind of a mark on Buddha's head. That is, the bone is thicker, and also the skin is much thicker. So this mark is a special mark. Ordinary people don't have that, but Buddha has this, and we call this 肉鳍. Last time when I was in Hong Kong, actually they had a piece of bone from Buddha from this area.
Wow.
The bone is much thicker than us. Yeah, it's thicker. So there are 32 marks that we can identify who's wise, who's not, who's full of merit, virtues, who's not. Okay. And today I'm going to stop my talk at this moment.